How does color lend itself to viewing a film or a television series through a political lens?
Okay, so it all comes down to political parties, specifically in America. A lot of the political parties, obviously the most popular colors are red and blue for the two main parties that are chosen by the country as to be the two opposing parties. And it's red and blue. And I believe a lot of people have caught onto the this color scheme, and they are trying to tell stories in order to kind of maybe affect politics in a way. I think they hope to affect politics in a way with the storytelling. So those two colors are used predominantly now with heroes and villains, depending on who the person supports. And I think the first thing to start this off was going back to Star Wars, with the red lightsaber and blue lightsaber, and the heroes are blue and the villains are red. That when George Lucas was asked about why, he said because they are. That was the reason given. But if you want a possible concrete reason as to why he does not support the red party, he supported the blue party. So the villains were red, the heroes were blue. And ever since the 2016 election, I do believe a lot of people have gotten this blue and red storytelling device. I do believe they've hooked onto this as a primary tool in order to tell the story that they hope will affect an election. So a very recent example of this actually, it's becoming so unsubtle that people are actually catching on, and I've seen a number of tweets and Reddit posts and Blue Sky posts with people doing this as interpreting the red and blue as a joke, but I don't think it's a joke. I think it's on purpose. The TV show Peacemaker um, has characters, and one of them's in red armor and one of them's in blue armor. I seen that and went, okay, we know who the heroes and villains are, and the heroes and villains. It was supposed to be a twist that the blue one was not evil and the red one was not good. But again, going with the color scheme, it was inevitable that the red one was going to be villainous because the person who makes it supports the blue party. So that's how the story was told, and yeah, inevitably it came to pass. And the two characters specifically, one of them's I think he's like kind of a right wing, he's kind of like a bruiser, and the other guy is this old man character. He was villainous, but he kind of isn't anymore. The post I seen was Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and that was a joke. It's supposed to be a meme, but I do believe that was the point. That is what they're trying to do, and I think that's why it was written that way. And I think it was written that way on purpose in order to kind of explain electoral outcomes. Because spoiler, do you mind a spoiler for the show? Because that technically isn't a spoiler.
Go
But
ahead.
this one will be a spoiler. Um, the both characters die, and the deaths of both of them is it brings a lot of trauma to the main character because he loves both of them. So that in itself is trying to educate the audience, in my opinion, that this is what happens in electoral battles when a team, as they call it, team. It's not a team sport, but they'll call it a team. Loses. It hurts people. Like, so you can celebrate if your party wins, but remember, there's people on the other side who are struggling, are scared, and they'll suffer when the other ones win. It's just like it's a story that's been going on for so long now, and I do think it was hyped up by the 2016 election. A good example actually is another DC show, which is The Flash, where they took away the main character's costume for the last like 3 seasons because it was red. And the only way that makes any sense is they wanted to tell the show more with less effects, but they didn't. They had a lot of effects. They just kept the main character out of costume. So looking at it through a political lens, why would they do that? Oh, because it's red, and the people who make it support blue. So they're uncomfortable having red as a hero on screen. So that explains the change. Doesn't mean it's true, but it explains it if you're looking at it through a political point of view.
Interesting. I have a few different questions that come to my mind hearing you describe some of that. I believe in the Flash. Granted, I haven't seen the whole series. I kind of stopped watching once season 4 started. I couldn't do it anymore. But I believe it was at season 3 they had, was it Savitar?
Yes,
Spoiler alert, um, as the main antagonist. He's blue, right?
yes,
And he's
yeah.
portrayed as a villain.
Yes, and that's where the dynamic gets shaky, but it is kind of explainable when you think of that version as the objective version. So instead of that one being the enforcement of storytelling with a hero and a villain thing, somebody might look at it more objectively and go, well, that's who are fighting, the blue and the red. So if you have red, then they have to be fighting blue. Doesn't matter if it's the allegiance of the character, those colors still have to appear. You know what I mean? So it's just showing again that the clash, it being the red versus blue, because spoiler alert, with Savitar, he is the
Well,
main character.
yeah,
He's Barry Allen, so like he is the hero, but he's just not. He's a darker version of the hero. So that can be in, if you look at it through the political lens, you could say maybe they're saying the blue party's gone too far in some areas, or they're a darker shadow of the former self, that type of thing. Maybe they are criticizing that the party they support. Maybe they don't support it at all. But it's like there's still a lot to work with. You know what I mean? And I think that's why a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people come to it. And I know the primary colors. I know they're reflective of each other. I know they're kind of they have the dynamic of verses where it's red and blue, the contrast. But this is again a lens, so it's like it's not just a visual thing for contrast. It's like it's only when you're looking at it through the politics part, through the viewfinder.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot
I find
more
it
we can
interesting.
go into. There's so
No,
much
yeah,
more
no,
to.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. I just find it interesting because, yeah, for people who aren't familiar, maybe I should have brought it up earlier. You don't hail from the U.S.
No, couldn't tell.
You are from the UK.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you come to having this fascination with this topic and exploring it in the way that you have? Being that you're not from the US, but that seems to be the main point of emphasis for your argument.
Yes, it is, and it's a good question. I am under the belief that I can crack where my own politics is going in my country by watching yours, because we copy. So a lot of the stuff that goes on, like, any certain political events happen in yours, it follows, and we eventually get our own little version of it. So it's the way I picture it is we're kind of the the father and old father of America, and we're trying to copy the son to remain young, or the daughter, whatever America is. Probably a son, because I know Lady Liberty's a daughter, but she's also French. I don't. The but I do see it as like copying. So we've now got our own sect of political um political commentators who are using the phrase "Make Britain Great Again," which was the original phrase that Alan Moore coined in V for Vendetta. Make Britain Great Again. It was a pun, and his fascist character has it as they have it as their party slogan. Make Britain Great Again, because it's Great Britain. So like it was a pun. It was like a well written pun. And then America, the Make America Great Again thing come out, and now it's been Americanized to the point where there's people in my country so desperate to be American that they are just blatantly trying to like interfere with politics, but also like kind of asking for help overseas. So I do think like monitoring pop culture is a good way of kind of not predicting the future in a way, because that sounds pretentious and stupid and weird, but it's a good way of kind of getting a handle on like your expectations. For example, there is um like when 9/11 happened, we had our own bombings a couple of years later, and we don't specifically like have a holiday around that or a day of remembrance, but that significant event is kind of crystallized on our news broadcast on the day there is an anniversary. It's just not. It wasn't as the tragedy wasn't as large a scale in terms of as in the tragedy was there, but it wasn't as a large scale attack. So we I'm surprised we didn't give it a name. So it was the bombings. It was a certain train got bombed, and it wasn't big enough for a day to be carved out like 9/11 was. But we still had the same broadcast, same style of imagery, the same like write-ups, the same articles, the same pundits going off the back of it and like trying to use it as a political tool. Um, and at the moment, I'd say in if you don't mind me going on this tangent really quickly, um, at the moment, the face of British politics is now heavily focused on defence spending, which is a stereotype of American politics, and we're doing that. So our country is now politicians in our country are now siphoning as much from the public purse as possible to put it into defense initiatives and to buy American-made weapons like Lockheed Martin jets, that famously don't work and are a joke in the aeronautics community, but we'll buy them because we are the son and we are the sovereign old father, and we will do what our cool son tells us to. So uh, watching. Plus, the country loves America. We do like we America's seen as like the destination for the rich and famous. So it's like the second stage of success, really. If you make it big in London, you could make it big in Los Angeles. Like that's the atmosphere of our celebrity culture. So I do think pop culture is a really interesting tool and a useful tool to use in order to get a grasp on the way your countries work, because you get to see kind of how the other side live. Um, and also your politics is kind of a bit more interesting. You have more colourful characters. Like, but at the moment I'm looking elsewhere. Like I've been going like, with, as you were saying, like talking about anime and stuff like that. I've been looking into anime more because it's more surprising. Now stories of anime are more surprising compared to I know I've just said like earlier that one of them I knew the ending of, but that was a specific case. Um if I watch a TV show or a film now and it's American, I follow the colours and I can guess where it's gonna go, and a lot of the time I'll be right, not because I'm clever, but because this numbering system's been made worse by, you know, a corporate ruling regarding like like algorithms and how paint by the numbers stories that audiences want, test screenings. This all like is a perfect environment to allow these rules to thrive. So a lot of movies go with the color system, and a lot of them are American movies. So I've been looking at like Chinese cinema and Japanese cinema now because I'm not as familiar with their politics, and so it's and their colors have different meanings. They've already always had like different meanings with like in Japan, purple seems to be the color that's evil. So they still use the color system, but they have like different meanings ascribed to their colors already. So they like have a color system of their own that they have like symbolism for. So it's not primarily rooted in politics. So it's easier not to be able to look through that political lens with them. So I kind of been looking at other cultures and other markets, if that answered the question at all.
Absolutely, yes. That was a really good answer. I really liked it. Yeah. So if you want to hear more about that topic, you could definitely check out our episode we did on Godzilla King of the Monsters for round
There's a
two of the
lot
Film
more.
Sequel podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
That
was
one's
fun.
like that's the like concentrated orange juice version. That's really strong.